arm, and eventually we are going to demonstrate how those men fight in those line tactics in the Civil War. And to demonstrate their weaponry, they will be moving you over to the demonstration area to do that in that open field. So we'll conclude the program eventually over there. When they start marching over there, you follow right behind them and lead them over there. And for a lot of years, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Ken May. Ken?
Thank you. Welcome you here to Spangler Spring area. We represent the Stonewall Brigade. There's about 80 of us. We've got about 25 or 30 here today. And we represent the 5 regiments that were in the Stonewall Brigade. And they fought down the road here only about 300 yards. So we certainly appreciate being here today. What we're going to do is I'm going to take you through a little bit about the Confederate soldier you would have seen here at Gettysburg in 1863. Well, first we'll bring a soldier out, go through the uniform, the clothing and equipment, explain what he's got and why he wears it that way. Then the captain will put the company through the manual of arms. If you've been in the military, you might recognize some of the commands, but I'm sure you don't recognize what they're doing. And then he'll take them out and march the company around and show you how they went from a column into a line of battle and doing it on the right and left. And they'll come back here and show you how the weapon was loaded. There were 10 steps in loading the rifle. We'll go through that very slowly, you can see it, and then we'll march over to the firing area and we'll go through some of the more common methods that a company used to fire. When that is concluded, we invite you back at the camp. We spent the night here last night. We survived beautiful weather here. And you look at any of the clothing equipment, talk to any of them, ask them any questions. What you'll probably find is you'll get more information you really wanted to, right? But just cut them off at any time. Any of the young boys here or girls, we've got some wooden rifles over there, and we'll be more to happy to instruct you very rudiments of how a Civil War soldier is real. Okay? So we'll be happy to do that. But first of all, let me just tell you that this is a very typical of what the Confederate soldier in the Stonewall Brigade would have looked like back in 1863 right here in this location. I'm going to start at the bottom and work up. He has on what is known as brogans. These are leather shoes. Now, there's a great myth that the Confederate Army was always barefooted. That is not true. They did wear shoes. If you get a chance to look at the shoes, you look at mine, there's a metal plate on the heel to keep the heel from wearing down, and you'll see that the soles are not sewed on. They're held on by wooden pegs. And the idea was that as the sole wore down, the wooden pegs also wore down at the same amount, and you didn't have any threads breaking and the sole coming off. And because, as you've noticed, the ground is always damp, the wooden pegs stay swollen and hold the soles on. And you're welcome to take a look at the soles of his shoes if you want to. He's got on wool socks. He's got on what is known as a jean cloth trouser, just as I do. It's a wool-cotton blend. Very easy to produce in the South. His is on a brownish color, mine is a darker color. He's got on a jean cloth jacket. Again, it's a blend of cotton and wool. I have a 100% wool jacket on. They are both cut in the same design, what is known as the Richmond Depot. We drew our uniforms from, or the units did, from Richmond. And the way the quartermaster system worked in Richmond was, and most other places, they would have seamstresses in the town with the patterns, and when the wool or material came in, they would farm it out to the seamstresses, and they were paid as they turned the finished product back in. So when the quartermaster issued to the units, they were never the same type of material, never the same color, and although the cut was generally the same, there were variations. So in the Confederate Army, you had similarity. You did not have uniformity. And the jackets always wore longer than the trousers, so you never ended up with a matched pair, okay? The shirt he's wearing is cotton. I have a vest on under mine. Many of the soldiers, being in Victorian days, wore a vest because you were considered impolite and undressed if you took your jacket off and didn't have a vest on. So the only thing that was really made out of cotton that he wore was his shirt and his underclothes, and you're just going to take my word on the underclothes, all right? All right? The hat he has on was an issued hat. It's called a kepi, modeled after a French hat that was still being used during the First World War. The hat I have is what was more favored by the soldiers, a civilian hat called a slouch hat. Much more comfortable, wide brim, kept the rain off the back of your neck, sun out of your eyes. Much more favored by the Confederate soldier. But they were not issued. They procured them on their own. They were civilian hats. Or as they went through Gettysburg, they picked up what they needed off the people on the street. Okay? Now, the first thing he would wear when he got dressed would be he'd put his cartridge box on. Now, his cartridge box he has was on a belt. Could be done either way. Mine is on a strap. It was very heavy, held 40 rounds of ammunition, each round having a 1-ounce lead bullet in it. So it got very heavy. So the next thing he would put on, if he had a sling, would be his belt. And you put your belt over the sling of the cartridge box to keep it from bouncing around, hold it tight on your hip. It always went on the right side. Everybody fired right-handed. There were no left-handed shooters in the Army, okay? Everybody fired right-handed. On his belt, he has his cap box and his bayonet scabbard. Belts were used to hang things on, not hold things up. His trousers are held up by suspenders, or they called them braces. So are mine. There were no belt loops on the trousers, right? Now, the next thing he would put on would be his haversack. And that's a linen, waterproof, painted or tarred, make it waterproof bag. Inside went his cooking utensils, personal items, food went in there. His mucket or cup went on the outside. And then above that, he had his canteen. He's got a metal canteen, and his has his dinner plate attached, which is nothing more than 1/2 of another canteen. And he just tied on there. I don't have a dinner plate. Mine's in my haversack, all right? Now you'll notice that the canteen and haversack go outside the belt so that you don't have to stop on the march to eat and drink. You don't have to get undressed. It goes outside the belt. The last thing he has is a pack. He has a pack. You might see some blanket rolls in a line, slung over his shoulders on their back. Weather like this, all you really needed was a ground cloth and a blanket. Then here would go some personal items, his blanket, his poncho, things like that. Other food, maybe a change of clothing, although they didn't carry change of clothing too much. And if you get real close to us in the wet weather, you'll notice that we don't clean our uniforms either. So, but you're lucky. You're in a dry